All right, we'll begin with a roll call to see if we have a quorum present. If you're here, please say so. Nate?
Present.
Brad?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
Rick?
Here.
And I'm here. Quorum is present. First item of business is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion?
There were 2 meetings. I don't know if you want to take
That's
them one
right.
by
Thank
one.
you, Kristen. Yes, we do have 2 sets of minutes. Why don't we do each one separately? So we'll begin with the minutes from the September 18th meeting.
I'll move for approval.
Moved by Bill,
Second.
second by Dave. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Rick?
Item 11, which on the minutes referred to the demolition, and it said, trying to get to it here. After discussion, the board, it was the consensus to let chosen demolition contractor take care of it. I don't believe that's what was the intent. I think the intent was to wait till we had a demolition contractor and then decide what to do.
We would have had to include that in our bid when we asked them for proposals, if we would then want the opportunity to salvage. I understood it that we were going to, whoever got the bid could decide if they were saving anything or if they were throwing it all away or,
Whatever the demolition contractor said we could take under consideration.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do what he chose to offer us. This did cause some problems in the city. There is some people who are looking at things, as you well know, and they'd like an opportunity if it becomes open. And right now, we haven't made a decision.
Weren't we talking about liability and risk according with salvage and coming on the property and premises?
that's how I understood it. I understood that we were not going to allow somebody else to bid on, we would have to put it out for bid if we were going to let people salvage, because we can't just pick somebody to give them the opportunity to salvage. So we would have had to put it out for bid to allow anyone from the public or not a demolition contractor to do salvage. So I thought it was the consensus of the board to just let the demolition contractor
Yeah.
demo the buildings, and if there was anything in there they wanted to salvage, they could do that. That's how I understood it. Did I misunderstand that from anyone else's perspective?
No, anything that the city would dispose of like that has to go out for bid. We can't just take something that has, even if it's minuscule value, and just say whoever wants it, take it. So it would have to go out for bid.
Right.
But we weren't advocating anybody to come take it. I thought we were
No.
I thought my decision that I was voting for was that we're going to hire a contractor, we'll let them handle all aspects, including salvage, and us not play a role in it whatsoever.
That's how I understood it, too.
So did I.
I don't remember even having a vote. I think it was just a discussion.
There was a consensus. But
Correct. Yeah, we did not take a vote on it. There was no motion to do anything, although we did put this project out for bids. And I think we're going to need to know, obviously, if the bidding contractors have included in their bid the fact that they are salvaging some of the material, then that's, if they're basing their bids on that, then we cannot change the deal on them. So, I mean, the bids are on the street. I think what we could do is modify the wording of this to such that we can consult with the winning contractor and see if there is anything salvageable.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's the way it should be. We can't make a decision because we don't know what the contractor's offering yet.
right?
What do we want to salvage?
We don't know yet,
How about all the bricks?
right? Could repurpose them into the square. There's lots of things you could do.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I think it's, as long as we aren't messing with what we put out to bid, there's no harm in having a conversation with the contractor.
And I just recall a conversation also central being liability and risk.
Again, we're not advocating or allowing, I wouldn't vote to allow anybody to walk onto that property. But the contractor may say, oh yeah, we can salvage 1,000 perfect quality bricks and you can use them for one of the walls in the square. Okay, why wouldn't we want to do that? I don't know, maybe we need to modify this to indicate that we didn't have a consensus from the sounds of it, and we put it back on a future agenda. You guys tell me,
An agenda after we choose the contractor.
right?
Right.
Yeah, we cannot mess with what we put out on the street for bids.
Was the, I mean, maybe we should take an understanding of the members to see what they understood number 11, that discussion to be, because I thought that was the consensus, so.
We could, but I think we've seen a lot of people believe it was, and a couple believe it wasn't, which tells me there wasn't a consensus. So we have to rephrase this minutes so that it accomplishes everybody's view. So I will make a suggestion. I will make a motion that we amend the minutes. Let me get the wording right. We amend item 11 on the minutes from the meeting to indicate after discussion by the board, it was decided to revisit the issue after we have a chosen demolition contractor. It really wasn't decided. There was no decision. We did not vote. So the other thing we can put here is that the board discussed salvage opportunities, period. And we can figure out how we're going to navigate it moving forward. How does that sit with people?
Rick?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
It's accurate, it's correct, and obviously we didn't have a consensus. So my motion would be that we amend item 11 to indicate, I think it should just say the board discussed salvage opportunities related to the 100 block of Main Street. Is there a second on that motion? Bill seconds. Is there discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that's amended. So now the corrected minutes.
I'll move
Bill will move,
minutes.
Second.
seconded by Brad. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good job, thank you. All right, now we have the minutes of September 25th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Matt. Is there any discussion on these minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Thank you. We always reserve time on our agenda for the public in attendance to comment to the board. Is there anyone in the room this evening who'd like to address the board? Yes, please.
Do I need both there? Or can I just
You're fine.
or- Okay.
Yep.
My name is Lisa Falk, and I'm the owner of Peter Cutter Paws. Right now, we're on the bottom portion of the Shemp building. And I just want to try to express my feelings that we really are having a hardship with the parking. And I don't think that some people realize the seriousness of the situation, but it's very serious. And right now, we are not making it because of the parking. When we moved down there, we were really excited about coming downtown, being in the downtown area, just wanting to do, be part of the downtown. Bill has been wonderful to work with. Can't say enough great things about him. I absolutely love him. But right now, I can be in my shop and I can have either nobody in there or maybe one client, first, customer. I can live outside and I have not one parking spot in the whole entire block that I'm on. Okay, that's a problem, because they have nowhere to go. I have an old man that can barely carry his bags, and so we're more than happy to help him. I'm walking 2 blocks down the way to carry his bag of food, okay? I have another lady, I'm walking all the way down to the liquor store to carry her food down there. That's a problem for us. A couple months ago, I had a legal issue, and I went to a law firm, and they were telling me that they were thinking about coming to the Shemp building, but the parking was an issue. It is definitely a problem, and I really feel that a lot of people just don't see the seriousness of it. And so I just really wanted to express that it is a problem, we're really having a problem with it. And so if there's brainstorming that can be done, that would be great. It's great that the lot was, finally paid on Market Street, which is wonderful, but to be honest, that's gonna be for mainly the employees of everybody around. Now we won't have to worry about getting a parking spot coming to work. Other than that, like for us, our clients cannot walk 2.5 blocks with a 40-pound bag of dog food. That just isn't feasible for us. It's even somewhat hard across the street, just because Main Street's so busy. I don't really have the solution, but I'm putting it out there because obviously we're trying to build up the downtown. You want more businesses down there. Obviously you want businesses that create people. We have people that are still telling us that, we're losing people. Customers come just the other day, you know me, if there's a spot I stop, if not, I'm done. Well, we're feeling that now. We are really feeling it, and we're still losing people. People that have tried to stay loyal to us have still kept coming, and now all of a sudden they're done, and now we don't see them anymore. And yeah, so I just really wanted to express that to you because, like I said, it's a serious issue. It really is, and I just don't think some people understand that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for your time and for listening.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for being downtown. We really, your shop is such an asset to Main Street. So I really appreciate you took the time to come here and express that. And, we do have an agenda item later on the agenda to try to begin this process of solving the problem, but just know that we take it seriously, too. It means a lot. It means a lot that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else wish to comment? All right, we'll move on to item 6, status reports. Matt, Loan Review Committee.
So we don't have any requests to look at. I think something came in real late last week. There's been some turnover with a couple of the bankers, the banks involved. So we'll just continue to work on getting that 300,000 locked up. It's not yet.
Got it.
So.
Okay. Community support and communication, Kristen and Scott.
Go ahead, Scott.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Kristen put in your agenda packets for tonight a long-range plan that we've been working on together to sort of take us through calendar 2020 in terms of our communication, our outreach, any events that may occur around the development of the town square. Because I know you guys wanted to sort of get a glimpse forward and make sure that we had a plan in place to make sure that we were communicating the right things at the right time. So we put this plan together basically somewhat chronological order, understanding that timing on everything is going to be fluid according to how everything pans out with the town square. I'll just give you a quick top-level overview of the document itself and what's included here, and then assuming that you've had an opportunity to take a look at it, I'll just take questions from you.
Okay.
Page 1 is just setting the stage with goals and primary tactics and communication channels. It's kind of interesting if you look at the bottom of page 1 that we've got more communication channels available to us than maybe we all realize at any given point in time, and most of those are very cost-efficient or even no-charge communication channels. So obviously we favor those when we're putting communications out to the public. Top of page 2, I think, is important because it outlines things that are not necessarily related to the town square, but I think are important messages for the RDA to continue to push out. There are some town square related messages there, but this is sort of the go-to kind of 8 buckets that we try to draw from whenever we're communicating. There are some regular promotables that we have, including the regular RDA meetings, the collaboration group meetings. There's a note on here that we might want to consider, and I believe maybe, Nate, this was your idea, to do some quarterly town halls as activity starts to pick up, taking more opportunities to do more of a open forum style conversation with the public. So each one of those regular events gives us occasions by which to send some of these messages. And then pages 3 through 5 sort of takes in sequence what we think right now we know about how things are going to unfold with the town square, and how we would attack that messaging and communication channels that we would suggest using for those, and then the timing of them as well. I did on page 5 offer up a top-level budget for you guys to consider through 2020, because I know that that's part of your work right now for next year. It is a high budget, as I'm sure you realized. But it's a starting point, and each one of those line items are detailed in the grid for the town square communication.
Questions for Scott?
Do you have a chance to talk with Smith Group? Do they have any insights to share with us or best practices based on other communities that they've worked with when launching?
I have not
something?
personally talked to Smith Group. Most of the communication that I've had is with Kristen, so
Okay,
I'm hearing things that they're saying by way of Kristen.
okay.
It does seem like that would be a good, some sort of routine,
Yeah.
conversation with the three of you, because they're going to be undertaking some efforts as we proceed to help get grant money for the town square, for example. I'm just thinking there may be some things they're trying to accomplish that we want to make sure our messaging is in alignment with. And also some newsworthy items probably from things they're going to be doing. So, things worth highlighting.
Absolutely happy to do that.
Other questions for Scott? I have one question on the top high-level budget. What are you envisioning potentially for the out-of-town or out-of-market advertising? What is that?
So, understanding that part of the appeal of the town square is not just for Watertown citizens, but to try to attract more visitors as well, and having within 40 miles 2 major media markets, opportunities to take earned PR and get, perhaps out of Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, maybe a feature article about the town square as we get closer and closer to grand open. Madison is an even easier market to get earned PR out of. Generally, when we try to get earned media out of a media market, in particular like Milwaukee, we will throw a few bucks their way. No quid pro quo. But doing some advertising with those media outlets tends to open doors for us.
Okay.
So, yeah, the idea was that we should start talking sort of beyond our own city limits.
Got it.
Or anything that the Watertown Tourism can play a role in, or piggyback, or
Yeah, I certainly
collaborate on?
think that as part of the collaboration group, talking not just with tourism, but with many of the other organizations in town for how we can promote together and in a lot of cases, 1 + 1 = 3. If we can work together on something, either for the sake of cost efficiency or just for the sake of volume on the message.
Correct.
So, yeah, a lot of that work happens through the collaboration group.
Rick?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Scott. I think he's done a heck of a job putting this together. There's an awful lot of information here. And if we can accomplish half of this, I think we'd be doing really good.
Let's do all of it.
Other feedback for Scott? All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wait, one question for
Yep.
you. So from a process standpoint, do I move forward on some of this stuff until you tell me otherwise, or do I wait for you guys to go through some formal process to say, yeah, do that?
We'll work in coordination with Kristen, and
Okay.
then Kristen will have the authority to pull the trigger on each of these items as you want to.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Common Council update. Bill?
Okay, first of all, like everybody's aware, Market Street was finally paved. Question or a thought that I have on that, we can probably talk about that more down under number 8, is possibly making some of those parking stalls short duration period. Then when that alley that would go to the back of the Shemp building. They're looking to put lighting in there, clean that up a little bit, and it would be, half a block rather than 2 blocks. So, but we can talk about that more later. As far as the city budget for next year, I talked to the mayor. She's talked to Kristen without really knowing what the numbers are going to be. She didn't put it in the budget, but we'll address it as a budget amendment as needed. Okay?
That's the town square.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the new library will have a bathroom accessible for the public. So that will help us out as far as the town square having facilities.
Great. Great. Questions for Bill? All right, thank you, Bill. The property team.
We had our workshop, if you will, on the 25th of September at the Elks, and it went well. I thought it was a fair turnout. Business or property owners showed up. Mayor McFarland started us off and did a nice job. Jacob spent significant time on code compliance, just honing in on a few areas. Kristen shared a few things. There were some pretty good questions. I thought there'd be a lot more questions, but there weren't a ton. And Melissa also shared, she was very helpful as well. And so the folks that showed up they were introduced to Del Swig, Doug Swig, Jane Ellen Holloway, our city engineer, and just so they kind of had a sort of a reference of who to talk to when they need something. And so I thought it went well.
Yeah,
It
there
was
were
nice.
probably 25 to 30 people there. Yeah. Have you heard any feedback, Melissa?
I have not,
Okay.
which is often a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it went well. I thought it was very informative and very lightweight, and so it was good.
Is there anything we should be doing on the heels of that now? Is there any next step coming out of that meeting?
I think it's great that we're seeing scaffolding and tuck pointing and lifts, booms up on second and third stories. I think that's a great start. I know we've talked about that already, but I guess I don't have the answer to that right off the top of my head. But yeah, to stay the course. I think those that showed up have a good understanding of who they need to talk to when they come to City Hall, or what the sort of the process is for pulling a permit and just who to talk to. I think that was good. There was transparency.
Yeah, Jacob reviewed the common violations and what the inspectors might be looking for. And so they're now aware of maybe how to preempt a code violation. And we asked, if Doug or Del mostly would be willing to go and do kind of a pre-inspection to say, this could be a violation, this could be a violation, and they said they would be willing to do that. So I don't know if anyone's taken them up on it. It's kind of like inviting the inspector over. It's kind of risky, but Jacob, have you gotten any calls following up from that?
People that showed interest, I don't know if they followed up with Dell or not.
Okay.
Yeah, to your point, I was thinking the same thing. What's the next step? And I wonder if it's every quarter, or it would be worthwhile having Jacob or Doug or Dale, somebody come in just to give us, I don't know, maybe a temperature, a read on how interaction's going, what are they seeing? Maybe other people have feedback. I mean, the city put a lot of effort into this. I know it matters a lot to the downtown efforts. I don't want to just kind of see it go out there. Have any thoughts on that? Or?
I think it's a good idea. We could just put a tickler on the calendar to remind us to do that on a quarterly
Get an
basis.
update from the inspections department?
Yeah.
Just trying to get a read. I mean,
dialogue.
Yeah, how's it going? How do we feel it's working? And maybe other people, Melissa, go ahead.
In many cases, when a property owner receives a letter from the city, they call me and say, what can I do? I said, well, first thing you need to do is you need to call whoever sent you the letter back. Don't ignore it. They said, the time frame isn't enough, I can't do this. And what I tell them, and this always works out, is talk to building inspection staff, come up with a game plan. I mean, they can give you 6 months, 9 months, even a year potentially, to line up a contractor, to budget for it. It's just, I encourage people not to ignore the letter. Some have said it could have come a little nicer. It's pretty blunt, but blunt gets attention. But that's been the feedback I've been getting, is that people are like, okay, I understand,
I think Doug and Dell both did a nice job of just explaining that, look, if it's a $50,000 window project, or if it's $100K worth of roof or whatever, it took a while to get to this point. We're not gonna be, hey, you got 30 days. But if it's a few windows, yeah, you got 30 days, you know, but if it's a large project, they're, at least what I took from it was they're gonna work with the building owners.
And contractor availability.
You got
is
it.
slim right
It's
now.
very difficult.
That's being taken into consideration too.
The last number I heard was there's over 200 violations written up since this summer, and there has been pushback from owners, definitely, you know, and there always will be, you know.
Well, I think we should have a standing agenda item every quarter, so that's a good idea, and then we'll kind of shape that as we near that meeting and try to figure out what we want to focus on.
Great idea.
Good, okay. Thanks, Brad. Town Square Design Task Force, Dave and Kristen. Lots has happened since our last meeting.
I think Kristen's going to talk about it most. I just want to make a couple comments about the Smith Group and their professionalism and the great way they've been handling things, and the positive way that the interactions that I saw with the community and them were very well handled. One of the goals that they had pulled out of all the things from the past that have and pulled together, and one that stuck out to me was that they want to honor the past and fit into the architecture. The town square would honor the past and fit into the architecture of the surrounding area, but also have a forward feel to it, so it's timeless and contextual. And it was interesting. We flew in a Thai national pastor and his wife this weekend, and when we took them through the downtown, we had to stop every block or so and get out and have them take a picture in front of one of the buildings, because this was typical American downtown. And I said, well, just wait till it gets really going down here. But they, so I think that's important in this whole process, is to maintain that feel of this is downtown America. So that was kind of neat to see. But I think Kristen's going to update us on what the Smith Group took away from the forum.
Sure, we had a two-day design workshop, October 1st and 2nd. October 1st was mostly interviews with small groups and individuals. We spoke with 35 people during the day in interview and small focus group format. And then we had an open house at the public library from, was it 6 to 7:30? People wanted to get home for the Brewer game because that was on that night. And there were 45 or more people that came there. It was so, then we had another focus group on Wednesday morning with another 7 or 8 or 9 people. So we talked to almost 90 people in under 24 hours. And it was really great. I have a summary then. After all the conversations from probably 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, I was downstairs with the Smith Group's 3 staff members all day, and we took all the input that we received in every form and lined it up against the goals and had a presentation to the steering committee at 4 o'clock. Rob was able to attend that. What I want to do is give you some of that high-level information now, and we invited the city council members who would be interested in participating to come and give input, but I see none of them are here. So what I want to make sure is that the 7 of you get a chance to provide input, because this is an opportunity for you to react to what you're seeing and give us input. It's a public process, and we want to get input from as many people as possible. So what the Smith Group heard were things that revolved around downtown vitality. That was the number one thing. They want an actively programmed, that word should be hyphenated, programmed square. They want it to be inclusive. They want to embrace the river, and people want a secure and safe space. See if this is going to go. It's slow. It's not thinking right. So what makes Watertown special? We had a board up on the, a board with a map like this for people to put Post-it notes on during the open house, and these were the top 3 comments: the small town community, the river, and history and heritage. What's missing downtown? Use of the river is missing. A sense of community they thought was missing. events, and family-friendly activities. So when we had several boards with design elements, the design elements, there are 2 slides that total all the design elements, but what's listed in the table are the numbers of design elements. They had a graphic or a photographic representation of each design element. The top 4 are listed there: multi-use plaza, an amphitheater, a boardwalk, and a kayak launch were, from the general public, the top uses. Others included outdoor seating, riverside seating, shade canopies, et cetera. And I'll go on to the next to see what ranked lower. A stage or platform. And I think that was the image that's there. I think that during our discussions earlier in the day, we heard a stage or a performance venue were really important to the people we interviewed, but that image might not be the one that resonated with people. So we're not putting as much weight on each score or how many dots it got. But the attendees were able to put dots on their preferred images. So some of the lowest ranking things were movable seating, an entrance sign, sculpted lawns, and a picnic area with grill. As far as activities were concerned, these were the activities that folks were most interested in happening on the town square: outdoor concerts, food trucks, a beer garden, market space, and ice skating. Ice skating ranked really high. Other festivals, water play, movie nights, these are the kinds of activities that were ranked by the attendees. Then we did a SWOT analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this was part of the exercise that we went through with the Smith Group, and they collated everything and laid it out like this. I want to see. Here's a kind of a quick, big picture analysis of what we heard. And this is done in big chunks like this because what Smith Group is going to do after we receive all the input is list the meeting that will happen this Thursday with the steering committee. They'll present the program, what could be programmed on the town square. Then they'll go into the schematic design phase where they'll actually take what they think are the elements we want and how will they fit on the town square. We're not designing it yet. We're still figuring out the programming. Will it have a fountain? Will it have an amphitheater? Then they'll allocate the amount of space. So they did this high level, just an example of the upper space that could be used for access, upper spaces, kind of a mid space that would be limited, but depending on how the grade of the site is used, because there's a 10-foot grade change from the corner of Water and Main Street down to the opposite corner, kitty corner across the site. And then how will we engage with the river? So a lot of work has gone into that, and they're working on all of that right now, and they'll be presenting to the steering committee what they've come up with for programming the space. So in establishing design criteria, I just want to, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I wanted to call out the goals. The goals included it be timeless and contextual, inclusive and accessible, engaging with the river, have design excellence, be a world-class gathering space, community-focused, and create economic vitality. Those were the goals that everything is being measured against when it comes to the town square that the steering committee came up with. I was going to skip through some of these. They did an exercise that was quite interesting where we took the programming elements and we kind of did a good, better, best. And that's what's in these columns, kind of a ranking from one end of the spectrum to the other. For example, with shade, could be an open-air pavilion, it could be trees only, it could be an overhead sail. So from minimal to maximum extremes on every end. For an ice rink, it could be no ice rink at all, it could be an add-on, or it could be a permanent fixture. It could be, when it's none, it could be temporary, where it would just be simply water poured inside of a snow barrier, but that may melt and be mushy. Is that the extent we want it to be, or do we want coils under the ground that enhance the freezability and you know, it'd be more of an investment? So this table talks kind of in a good, better, best for all the programming. So then they talked next steps, and that's where we were with the programming will be defined and presented to the steering committee on Thursday, and then they'll move into the design, schematic design. So based on what you've heard, is there any input that you have as community members and RDA members that have been pretty close to this all along?
That's really cool. That's exciting. I think all those things are attracting and can be an attractant to folks from outside of town, people that live in town, and I just think it's well done. It's a matter of implementation and prioritizing, you know, obviously what do we want? How is it going to look?
Process is important to me, and so it sounds to me, you know, all along that we're checking the right boxes. You know, we're making efforts to engage different groups, and I imagine we will continue to do that and get a diverse view. You know, I feel like, you know, my role on the RDA is to help usher in opportunities, but, you know, it's not my vision, right? It's the community vision that people need to embrace. So I'm very excited hearing the efforts you guys are making, the people you're discussing, things you're talking about. And that's good enough for me as a board member, as long as we get updates and we know we're making the efforts. I think we'll get a good result.
I think too, in including the community people to give their input is important, or sense of ownership.
Yeah, with the presentation on the evening meeting it was a brief presentation, and then people could dig right in and get right in, talk to the consultants, make their notes on the boards with the Post-it notes, and then vote on the images. And they seemed to, I had some good conversations with a couple of people that were really, really interested in following the process and excited about it.
Well, Dave, thank you for all of your help in leading this group. So, yeah,
It's been fun.
thanks to you and the team for all you've done so far. It's been a lot of time and, more importantly, attention and passion for the community, so really appreciate it. Rick?
Yeah, I like the idea of tying in the history of Watertown here, and one of those things could be using the bricks for a walkway, a pathway, a water fountain, anything that would tie in that block to the square.
Kristen, could you talk just a little bit about the way Smith Group is helping us think through Water Street and the different opportunities that provides for how we approach the square?
Sure. With every group that we spoke with, we brought up the possibility of partially closing Water Street or using Water Street as an extension of exhibition or festival space. And there was not one note of opposition. Everybody thought that was a great idea. They were excited about it. It could be temporarily closed. It could be partially permanently closed. It could be just narrowed in so cars could still drive through there, but it would be naturally slowing for them. You know, they'd slow down traffic. There wouldn't necessarily be parking on both sides of the street. That was a question we thought the library might be concerned about, but they are planning handicapped accessible parking stalls in their parking lot. And although it's nice to have that on-street parking, they will also have a drive-up for book drop-off, so people don't have to get out of their car necessarily if they need to access to drop off books. We also talked with city staff, department heads, so the fire department, the police department, water department, and engineering, public health, streets, the city attorney's office.
Everybody.
I don't remember if every department head was there, and they all weighed in from their perspective, which was really interesting because the police chief was concerned about sight lines and lighting it up so people couldn't hide in there, and the fire department was worried about access with emergency vehicles for ambulance and fire. Everybody had their own perspective, which I thought was really cool. So we took that into account when we talked about potentially closing the street. we also talked about using that space for food trucks or vendors that might need a hard surface, and they wouldn't necessarily, Randy from Parks is worried about bringing in food trucks and wrecking the grass, so to speak, so, for example. So everybody that we brought that up to was excited about the opportunity of expanding the usable space of the town square and creating more of a level surface up high. So, anybody else have any other, okay. A lot of the people who were involved are here, so.
The other thing that I thought was interesting at the meeting I attended was the comparison of the size of our footprint of the square to other squares that are out there. It's a lot bigger than you think it is. Yeah, I mean, it's about the size, wasn't it about the size of that park where the Bean is in Chicago?
The festival space there around the Bean in Chicago, yeah. That's the same size as the town square.
It's a lot bigger than you think. It's going to look interesting when those buildings come down. It'll be very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Great. Any other thoughts for Kristen? All right, thank you.
Yep.
And we're right back at you. Executive Director's update.
Okay, so last Wednesday, I made a presentation to the Historic Preservation Commission to formally request their permission to demolish the buildings because as it's required by city ordinance, they have, because of the Main Street Historic District, they have kind of the last word on if you can demolish an historic building in the district. I think that's normally triggered by the demolition permit, but we wanted to get out in front of them before we actually take out a demolition permit, and I made a presentation to them, and they voted unanimously to approve the demolition of the buildings. They seemed very excited about the economic and dynamic impact that the town square is going to make on the rest of downtown. They were happy to learn that there have been investments made by other investors in buildings downtown, and it's starting to spur interest. And they seemed really pleased with the presentation. I think. So that's my update on that. Related to the demolition bids, we had, the demolition bids were due on Friday last week, October 18th. We had 11 bids returned to us from demolition contractors from Wisconsin and Illinois. We had, the range in bids was from $266,180 to $630,000. Not everyone gave a timeline as asked, but we had everywhere from between 6 to 17 weeks from notice to proceed. That depends on things like, has We Energy signed off on shutting off the electric and gas, and some of those other things. But the next step in the process will be that we made it very clear that we weren't just accepting the low bid on this, that we're going to look for qualified bid. And Jane Ellen was with the bid, she assisted with the bid opening. There wasn't a formal bid opening scheduled, but a lot of the bidders were old school, were expecting the bids to be opened on the spot, so Jane Ellen graciously opened them all. And we now are going to, Jane Ellen and I are going to sit down with folks from the Smith Group as well and go through the bids. I'll use my economic development network to kind of check references and performance in other communities where they've worked, and we'll try to land on a recommendation fairly quickly.
Great. Questions on that for Kristen?
Is this the range that was expected? Or,
Yeah, it was. I kind of had it in about the $500,000 range. So we had the 266 is kind of the outlier. And Jane Ellen asked me to give them a call to make sure that he understood the scope and wasn't missing something. But then we had 340, 379, 385, 425, 490, 488, 491, 449, 502, 561, and 630. So pretty well distributed between the range. They all are, two of them are doing their own environmental remediation, and then the rest are subcontracting to environmental remediation teams that showed up as well to tour the buildings. So we had probably 15 to 18 different firms come and go through the tour and express an interest. A few of the companies chose not to bid in the end. They just were either too far away or didn't think they could make the numbers work, so. We were pleased with 11.
Yeah, it's good, very competitive. From my standpoint, I just want to emphasize, I agree with you on the not just going for the low bid unless the low bid is also fully technically qualified. And this is being right on the river, right on Main Street. It's doing it right, and doing it right, by the way, I don't know what right means, so having Jane Ellen involved is really helpful. But there's a lot of risk involved to this project, and so we want to make sure we've got somebody really well qualified. Thank you.
Any updates on the grants?
Nothing
Or
yet.
we're okay?
No. We're ready with our SAG application, though.
All right, next, Kristen?
All right, at our September 25th meeting, we voted to sell the incubator building, and all the documents have been transferred to the buyer. We also have a new tenant in there, so it'll be fully leased when he takes ownership. The closing is still scheduled for November 15th, and everything's going smoothly with that.
Great. All right. Thank you, Kristen. We'll be right back to you in a second. Item number 7, review and approval of the financial reports. Kristen?
All right, you have the financial reports for September in front of you. Nothing really has changed a lot. I did make another payment to, a moving payment, but I don't know if that's on this month. Everything is pretty much the same. I don't know if you have any questions.
Not seeing anything. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll
Is that
second.
Matt? Seconded by Nate. All right, we'll do a roll call. If you're in favor, say aye. Nate?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Financial reports are approved. Thank you. Item number 8. Attorney Alan Larson is here to talk with the board about the parking challenges related to the Schempf building. So Al, you want to come forward and use the microphone, or that way the cable access will pick it up?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to get on the agenda on fairly short notice this week. I think I'm here to speak on behalf of Bill Lindborg. As almost all of you know, Bill owns the Schempf building downtown. And Bill has kind of hit a crossroads of sorts with developing that building. I think you heard from Lisa Falk earlier this evening about the parking problems that she's experiencing with pitter-patter paws. And Blush Salon, I'm aware, also has some issues with the parking right now being insufficient. That's for the ground floor of the Schempf building, and that's about 8,000 square feet. Bill would very much like to renovate the entire building. So there's the second and the third floor. Both of those are about 8,000 square feet each. It's a problem right now. There's a real difficulty in trying to get anyone, a long-term tenant or even a short-term tenant, to commit to either of those spaces without some increase in the availability of parking. I can speak to it personally. Lisa mentioned this before. I was the attorney she was talking to. But our law firm was really interested in moving into the third floor of the Schempf building. And I'm disappointed to this day that it didn't happen. We ended up, our firm needed a lot more space. We were downtown on 2nd Street. We've been looking for a long time. We were thrilled with the ability to potentially move into the Schempf building. I don't know, for those of you that have been in the building, it means a lot to people in Watertown. You know, there's a lot of history with that building. Just going in there with a staff member of mine, I could just see the emotion sort of going across her face, just walking into that building. There's a lot of memory that is tied together with that building. Ultimately, when, unfortunately, the purchase of the Plattdeutscher building property fell through, that was the end of our ability as a law firm to meaningfully look at the third floor as a place that we could move to, because there simply is not enough parking downtown. We need something that's handicapped accessible. We needed something that was relatively close to the building in order to allow our clients to get in there, and it's just not an option right now. I know that the Market Street Inn, that space is now available, but I know in talking to Bill Lindborg, there's a real concern that that's going to be insufficient to provide ample parking for the type of tenant that he's looking for the second and the third floor. It has not escaped my notice. I took a look at the RDA website, front and center, Schempf Building. I know that the town square is obviously a hugely important development that you're all focused on right now, but I would urge you not to lose track of the importance of the Schempf Building. That 200 block of Main Street is, I think, critical to the long-term downtown redevelopment. And in Bill Lindborg, you have a gift. You have an asset there. It's not often that you come across someone that's going to invest his own money. He's not coming to the city asking for loans. He's not coming to the city asking for investment or fundraising, anything of that sort. He's willing to put his own money into renovating that building and generating long-term tenants in the downtown area. The window for Bill is closing. He has a 5-year opportunity, tax-advantaged opportunity to develop that building. He's 3.5 years into it right now. So he's got a year and a half. His window closes in July of 2021 is when his window closes. And that really is going to be, it is. There's no way around it. It's a critical deadline for him. If he wants to get a long-term tenant in there and make the improvements in a tax-advantaged way that allows him to invest even more into that building, he needs to have those improvements completed by July of 2021. So I'm coming here on Bill's behalf because he's really not sure where things stand right now. He's got a building that he very much wants to redevelop. He can't. He simply cannot get the type of tenant that he needs for that space without some sort of additional commitment for parking in the downtown area. It's not available on Main Street. You heard from Lisa about her problems right now. Bill's willing to do anything he can to help her business remain there, but it's a problem even in the current situation with just the lower floor. As you can imagine, trying to get tenants in the 2 floors above that, 8,000 square feet each, it's really an impossibility trying to get someone to commit to that. So that's my purpose in talking to the board tonight is to urge you not to let this opportunity pass. You're not going to find too many Bill Lindborgs that are willing to take over what was once, maybe I'm being harsh when I say this, but the Schempf Building was a bit of an eyesore. And Bill has put a lot of time and effort and money of his own into renovating that building. If we want that building to continue to be vibrant and to be a part of the redevelopment of the downtown, something needs to give here. There needs to be some ability to generate available parking so that the clients, the customers, and by the way, Bill's not locked into a particular type of development. He's receptive to retail, restaurants, office use, possible apartments, higher-end apartments. All of those things are on the table right now. So he's not locked into any one particular development mode, but what he is really hampered by right now is he's got that window that's closing. He's got a parking problem that he can't surmount himself. I know if Bill could turn back time, he'd go back and buy the Plattdeutscher property himself before it got purchased by someone else, who shall remain nameless. Anyway, our problem is we just, that's it, in a nutshell. The parking is limiting his ability to develop that building.
So how far, we submitted a comment about people walking across the street is too far, obviously carrying big bags of dog food. But what is your, I mean, is it right in back of the Shump building? Is that the only place? Or, I mean, how far away from, what, there's only so many places that you can put parking down.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean,
I don't know. We, you know, the Plattdeutscher was at one time, I think, the ideal location. You know, I can't speak for the RDA's ability to finance that type of acquisition. I know you guys are stretched as it is. I think that still would be the ideal location, but I'm not sure if that ship has sailed or not. You know, the eminent domain is a possibility for the city to pursue if they're so inclined. As an attorney, I feel like, you know, the current buyer has sort of set the market or the value for that property. But to answer your question, I don't think there's a particular distance. You know, once you're moving 2-3 blocks away, I think that makes it harder if you're looking to put in a restaurant or some sort of retail. That's going to be tougher to ask somebody to drive downtown, park that distance, and then walk to get to that location. Not an impossibility, but I don't have a specific distance that I tell you that would be impossible. You know, it's really the closer the better. You know, that Market Street Inn location is helpful. But I know Lisa's concerned that it's going to be mainly for people that work downtown. They're going to find that as an additional space. It's going to be used up for that. Bill would like, you know, if there's any sort of ability to reserve some of the spaces in that lot for retail customers of the Schempf building, any other tenants that might come on board with the Schempf building, some way, at least during daytime hours, to restrict the use of some of those parking spaces. That would be a small step. Obviously, he's hoping for a much bigger step than that. I can't tell you what that step is.
Al, I feel like we've shown a willingness to step up when it comes to parking. I mean, we definitely threw our hat in the ring and tried to make the Plattdeutscher deal happen. I mean, we did not turn a blind eye to that. We bought Market Street in, tore that down, paved it. You know, I guess at the end of the day, we've only got so much time in a day. And it'd be helpful if Bill wants us to help solve something. Does Bill have some options he can bring to the table? Can he show up with 3 or 4 ideas and present them to us so we have an idea what makes sense? 'Cause it's really hard for us to solve a problem that we don't have complete knowledge of. I mean, obviously he's in the business day to day. He's working with Lisa and Pitter Patter Paws. I just think it'd be very helpful for a starting point for him to come forward with some ideas. Or is he looking for us to generate all the ideas? Because I think if he is, I think that's a tough spot to put us in.
I don't think he's trying to put you in any sort of a spot. The reality is, if that building is going to be useful as part of a downtown development, in its current status, with the current amount of parking that's there, it's a non-starter. You're not going to get the type of development that you're looking for in the second and third stories of that building. That's just the reality. So I think Bill's done everything he can, short of purchasing parking himself, purchasing and renovating a parking spot himself. If what you're looking for is an idea of a potential location for parking, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk to Bill about that, but, you know, Bill's ability to go out and purchase those individually, that's not part of what he's got available to him as a resource right now anymore, to go out and just purchase a private lot and renovate it.
No, I mean, ideas. So we can have a discussion. We can start generating some concepts that a solution might work, because maybe it's not just one thing. It might be 2 or 3 things coming together. You know, you had mentioned reserving parking spots within that space, and that's something that had been discussed previously. You know, so it could be a combination of several things. But I don't know what those things are without the context of Bill at the table saying, you know, based on the business I've got currently and what I'm trying to do, this would be my, you know, number 1, 2, and 3 options, you know, how you prioritize them. It would be helpful for us to understand what that looks like to him. Because I just think it's a lot for us to come forward and solve a parking situation. I don't know what exactly the parking situation is, other than people don't want to be able to have to walk across the street to carry a 40-pound bag of food, right? I mean, he said he's opening on 2nd and 3rd floors. Well, it really matters what he puts on the 2nd and 3rd floor that also is going to drive parking needs, right? Apartments versus office space, or is it another retail, So I don't know, I'm just trying to understand what does Bill really want? Because I think we've shown the willingness to support, and we want to, and we're willing to come with ideas, but it would be helpful for him to bring some ideas forward for us to thrash and kick around and discuss and try and create something that's winnable for him, for the downtown, and for us.
I don't think Bill would have a problem with that.
Yeah. I think it'd be
It's
helpful.
a chicken and egg sort of problem right now. The parking is a problem for him to get a new tenant. It's hard to sit here and tell you what that new tenant would look like if it's basically a non-starter right now. What Bill's hearing is that, especially for the size of location that he's looking at, he can't get anyone to commit to that with the parking circumstances as they are.
Yeah, I think what could help us is we would have to coalesce around an idea, and then we'd have to get the support of potentially the Common Council around a concept and an idea. And, and it's hard for us to do that without knowing what Bill's vision is. And I think I like where you're going, Nate, in that he could say, look, ideally, I would want to do second floor, another retail establishment, and third floor office space. And if I were able to do that, here's the parking I need to make that happen. Scale it back. I can do 2 apartments on floors 2 and 3. Here's the parking I need. And all of this, by the way, also enough parking to support the ground floor tenant, which is already inadequate, right? But I think we need to have some sense of scale. And then, look, any ideas you guys have as you look at the footprint of downtown for potential properties that would provide that parking in a reasonable distance would be helpful as well. Because there's no green space sitting there that can be turned into parking. So we're talking about property acquisition, and, that will involve the city if we're able to do it. Rick?
Some time ago, the city did a study on parking and where the parking
We did.
was in relationship to Main Street.
Yeah.
Because that's been a complaint for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And Jacob has put some maps together to show where that parking is. There is a public parking 1 block north of the Shen building. It's a public parking lot. It's about half full all the time. Is that too far for you?
Yeah, maybe Lisa could speak to that better than I could. My understanding is that lot is often full, and that it's a lot more than a 1-block walk for her clients to be able to get there.
Okay.
And that the parking is a problem right now for the existing tenants.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's another place we can put limited parking areas, a 1-hour parking zone or something, for retail people.
Yeah, I can certainly take it back to Bill and ask him to give a more firm idea of what he's got in mind for the second and third floor, and give an estimate of what amount of parking he's looking for.
Alan,
That's
can
helpful.
I ask a question? When you said once the Platt Deutscher deal was off the table, then your firm was no longer interested. So your firm was expecting parking right on that block?
Yeah, the existing parking would not have been sufficient for us. We needed something closer so that, some of our clients, our estate planning clients, have a hard time getting around. We're talking walkers or wheelchairs. And asking them either to park on Main Street was going to be extremely difficult to pull off. The other parking lot was far enough away, that was going to be a problem.
So it was
too.
more for your clients than your staff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think it'd be hard to resurrect that parking study. I mean, that's available. We can all take a look at that.
We paid for it.
RDA's paid for that a couple of years ago, so very familiar with that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would for a short-term fix, would a timed parking in front of, that's not gonna work.
No,
That's-
the thing is, the city was great, and they did 2 spots for us for 30-minute parking, but then you need to enforce that, and that, I'd be calling the police constantly
Every 30
to
minutes.
come down and try to enforce that. Then they have to mark the tire, then wait another 30 minutes to see if the car is still there. We've seen cars out there for an hour or 2 hours.
They would need to do that really, really consistently for about 2 weeks, and then people would be trained
Exactly.
not to
But it's
park
like,
there.
Is the city willing to do that? The first time I called them, the lady's like, what? What do you want want me to do? You know, and they're the ones who told me, call. So
Yeah.
I did. The next day after coming to a meeting, they're like, no, call. And, you know, she had no idea what I was talking about, you know? So it's like, okay, you know.
Well, I think it'd be very helpful to us to get a handle on the number of spots and a range and some context as far as, you know, thresholds, let's say. We're going to do second, third floor office space or retail, here's what we need. And let us also give some thought to what might be available down there. And I think we can also make some calls and see if anybody is actually in the market. I mean, it's always easier if somebody's looking to sell, you know, always easier. So maybe there's some opportunities that we aren't aware of yet, but we want to try to fix it. We want to try to help fix it. And I guess the other thing I would throw out there too for Bill is there an opportunity for some public-private partnership here? Because going into an unknown financially, you know, but if he's open to the concept, we should be open to the concept, and maybe there's a way that we can kind of put our heads together and make it happen.
Yeah, I can tell you that he is. He'd certainly be open to that concept.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
All right, thank you all.
Yeah. All right, we're on item number 9. This is for the purposes of listing only, not discussion tonight. Anybody have anything they'd like to see on a future agenda? Okay.
I think we just heard it.
Yep.
Yeah, parking, yeah.
Number one.
Yeah. So I think, Kristen, on that, let's circulate the parking study, if you could, to the board. And that'll kind of get our juices flowing again. And then, Al, when you've got the information from Bill, get that to Kristen. And then we'll circle back to this on a future agenda. All right. Next meeting date. What would our normal date be?
Do we have a normal?
Like November 13th?
What about the 21st, was that Thanksgiving? 28th? 28th.
Yeah,
28th.
before or after turkey.
Yeah, you guys can potluck it. You bring the beans, you bring the stuffing.
How's the 20th look to people?
A day of the week.
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I'm not
Me.
available.
Oh, yeah.
In November.
We got to switch, yeah. Tuesday, the 19th?
I have city council, but I might be at
Yeah,
City
first and
council
third are the
meeting-
city council
meeting
meetings.
here.
So that won't work. Thursday, the 21st.
Works for me.
That's a.
The third Thursday.
Okay. Let's go to the next week.
Let's go Sunday.
Why am I marked out on that day?
Your wife must have.
Did you check the 14th, Thursday the 14th?
Well, let's take a look at that.
No? Dave?
Sorry. Thursdays are our meeting night.
Well, we could go back to a Monday again. That's worked so well today. Monday, the 18th?
Yeah,
Thumbs
Should be
up
able
to
to.
Rick, thumbs up from Bill, Matt. Nate, you sound hesitant. You have a governing board meeting that night?
No, my girl's got some volleyball games.
No, we're not gonna do
But I
that.
just, as long as, what time are we gonna start at, 7? I think we'll be back by 7. Yeah, I think.
How's the 11th? Is that better for you?
It's Veterans Day, but I don't know if that matters. Is City Hall closed?
So that's better.
Yeah, 11th is fine.
Bill,
I think so.
Matt,
Yep.
Rick?
11th?
Yeah.
Yes, good.
Kristen?
Yep.
There it is, the 11th. I'm going to miss the Parent Music Club meeting.
That's That's why you were.
That's-
Actually, it's not me, it's
Absolutely
my
fine.
wife.
At 7 PM, is that okay?
7?
Okay.
All right. All right. Cool. All right, that is set. Now, do we have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1985 1E to deliberate or negotiate on matters related to development of 111 South Water Street?
So move.
Moved by Brad,
Seconds.
seconded by Rick. All those in favor say aye as your name is called. Nate?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Matt? Rick?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We're in closed session. Thanks for coming. We'll go back into open session afterwards, but there's nothing more on our agenda.